नीलेश जी मैं पढ़ रहा था बीच में निर्वाणा एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स राइट सो उसमें व्हाट आई नो फ्रॉम माय रिसर्च फॉर माय बुक्स एंड एवरीथिंग इज जब हम लोग एस्ट्रोनॉमी के बारे में बात करते हैं या द वे दे राइट इन श्लोकास टू राइट कि अंगारक या मार्स जो है this goes vakra, which if literally taken more like it goes into a retrograde movement.
Yeah.
But in your book, you specifically written it as that it actually takes an oblique direction and goes in a different direction.
Yeah.
Why that? What is that interpretation, and why not just write it as retrograde?
Retrograde. Great.
Retrograde. So
Yes.
what is the reason for behind it?
Great point. Again, use the tetradic schema.
Yeah.
P1, TT, EE, P2.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this is what happens. So, prima facie, today, because if we go to Indian astronomy or even astrology, the word vakra means retrograde.
Yeah.
In our today's terms. So, yeah, I mean, somebody begins, including myself or others, other Mahabharata researchers, they say, okay, retrograde means, vakra. Vakra means retrograde, right? And they say, hey, this is it. I say, yeah, be my guest. Even I thought the same. Many others have thought the same.
Yeah.
Now, here is the problem. So, let's understand the P1.
Sure.
Here is the problem. If you look at the positions, the nakshatra that are mentioned where the Mars is, okay, and it's a Mahabharata war, you can say the descriptions are of the 18 days, or actually we have enough reason, and I'll not go into that because that will digress, enough reason to believe that the actual observations are made over a plus minus 1 year.
Okay, overall.
So from the date, Mahabharata time, war time 18 days plus minus 1 year approximately. That is how the descriptions are. I mean, you know that. But takes Mars. So Mars is described, 8 different descriptions of Mars, beginning with the nakshatra Magha. And for people to understand this, they have to visualize all 28 nakshatra in that sequence. Okay, we'll assume that they can do that. So from nakshatra Magha, from there and so what? Magha, Purva Falguni, Uttara Falguni, Hasta, Chitra, Swati, Anuradha, Vishakha, Swati, Vishakha, Anuradha, Jeshta, then Mula, Purvashada, Uttarashada, Shravan.
And so it goes from here to this side, like in
right?
that way.
So it will always go like
right
this.
there.
Now, if you take this nakshatra space and just in an ordinary way, Mars takes 1.88 years to make a complete rotation. So this one, if you look at this nakshatra, like 13 nakshatra, that's a half of it approximately, which means at least it is a data points for 1 year, at least. You almost like a 2, but at least one, if there is no retrograde. Okay. What is interesting is within this 1 year time interval, based on a nakshatra space from Magha to Shravan, Mars is described by Mahabharata writer Vyasadeva as going vakri, so using your definition or the modern definition of retrograde twice. It goes retrograde near Magha, and it says it went, not retrograde, vakri near Magha, and vakri near Jeshta Anuradha. Okay, now what is the problem? We'll understand. If you understand the problem, solution is very easy. So the problem is these are separated by about 7 nakshatras. First thing, Mars goes retrograde once in that rotation, once in 2 years, about that. Now this data just based on nakshatra is only 1 year time period approximately, assuming no retrograde in between. And on top of it, it won't go retrograde twice. And certainly it won't go retrograde within a gap of 7 nakshatra, because suppose it goes retrograde near Magha, the next round it has to go retrograde, meaning next time. Retrograde near Jeshta Anuradha, it will take about 10 years. So why is Vyasa describing a motion here happening and then 10 years? Mahabharata war has gone. I mean, what is the use of this? That was the first problem. So within the 7 nakshatra space, it will not go retrograde, or if it has to, it will take 10 plus years. And then there is no evidence of that. Then one more thing. It says Magha Swangarako Vakra Shravanecha Brahaspati. Angarak went Vakra near Magha, and exactly same place it says Jupiter went Vakra near Shravan. So actually we have 3 data points to test it. Now because of this Mars, because it cannot go retrograde in the Mahabharata times twice, and it definitely won't go retrograde at the when it is showed, I said there has to be some explanation. So then I found, what if I consider the oblique crossing of the planet? Then actually Mars does it. Mars crosses and comes out on the other side near Nakshatra Magha. So that's the oblique crossing number 1. The next one, it goes, and I'm going to talk of its retrograde motion, but ignore that. Then it comes there, and near Jeshta Anuradha, it crosses obliquely again. So I said, I can
True.
explain this too.
Yeah.
Now there is a one more data point to consider. Did Jupiter does that same thing near Shravana? And I found for 5561 BC plus minus 1 year, it does that. So those three check, it's done. Now still my problem is not gone. Because what about the retrograde? Because I am challenging that Vakra is not retrograde.
Yeah.
But retrograde is a big motion,
Yep.
and Mahabharata must have mentioned it. So how does Mahabharata mentions retrograde? I will talk about others, but I will come back to Mars to
Sure.
close this.
Yeah.
So for Jupiter and Saturn, it says Samvatsara Sthainancho Graho Prajvalito Ubhau Vishakhayo Samipasto Brahaspati Shanaishcharo. They both have become steady for a year. Okay, by becoming bright. That's what they do during retrograde in the vicinity of a Vishakha. Who? Jupiter and Saturn. So that is there. Then Jupiter goes retrograde every year, so does Saturn. So Jupiter's going retrograde another time is given as a Shamo Graha near Jeshta. That also gets explained. Then here Bhagam Nakshatra Akramya Surya Putrena Pidate. Okay, so that is also like Saturn going with another nakshatra near Bhaga Nakshatra is also given.
Yeah.
So these are retrograde given 3 times. The before coming, so these are 2. Before coming to Mars, I will give you one more. Venus. Venus is given such a beautiful, it says, beautiful description. It says, Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samaruhya Vishampate. Shukra came near Purva Bhadrapada, Purva Proshthapada. Uttaretu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshate. Then by turning north, it went backwards, made a parikrama and went ahead. That is its retrograde. So retrograde motions are described, but they are described in this different fashion.
Nice.
In case of Jupiter, Saturn, they became steady and became bright. In case of Venus, it made a parikrama.
Yeah.
Either Venus does a parikrama like circle, loop, or it does like a zigzag fashion. This time it happens to be parikrama. Now let's talk of Mars. So Mars, Vakra twice. I am saying, I'm insisting, I'm asserting they are not retrograde. But where is the retrograde motion of Mars? Beautiful. I'm going to show you. It says, Dhruvam Prajvalitam Ghoram. Dhruva means become fixed. Prajvalitam Ghoram. Scary bright, not just bright. In case of Saturn and Jupiter, it says Prajvalito Ubhav. And you can do astronomy 101.
Yeah.
Mars, when it goes retrograde, it becomes the brightest. Meaning, in comparison to the other planets, Mars' brightness is extreme. So Prajvalitam Ghoram. Apasavya Pravartate. It turned backward in a non-normal motion. Apasavya Pravartate. Where Chitra Swatyantare Chaiva, between Chitra and Swati Nakshatra. Chitra Swatyantare Chaiva, Dishtita Parushagraha. Now just tell me these 3 Vakra motions, 2 of Mars, 1 of Jupiter. And then 2 retrograde motions for Jupiter and Saturn, retrograde motion for Venus, and now this is a retrograde motion for Mars. If I can show all of these for 5561 BC, will you buy this? That's what it was.
Nice.
So I showed Vakra to be something different, but I solved the problem of retrograde also. And I showed all 4 retrograde motions, beautifully explained and beautifully can be shown. I have simulations in the YouTube for each of this. You can see literally the Venus comes and goes backwards. So Saturn and Jupiter just going near Vishakha like this, because like this. And Mars, again the loop. It comes there. Dhruvam Prajvalitam Ghoram Apasavya Pravartate. Apasavya. Chitra, so between Chitra. So comes Chitra, goes there, goes to Swati, comes back all the way back to Chitra and goes there. And there are a couple of additional evidence for Mars which also supports that. Like Visheshene Varshneya Chitra Pidiyate Graha. In a very unique way, Mars is giving Pida to Chitra. It's like, imagine a boy walking, looks at a girl, goes further, on a second thought comes back to just giving another look and goes, like that.
Interesting.
And this is very poetic but very factual and very precise.
That's the very interesting thing. The way the shlokas are written and etc. They seem just poetic, or the way they explain it, but such depth.
Yeah.
And understanding the depth makes it much more easier for us to interpret them.
Yeah, and it is exactly. Even the Prajvalitam Ghoram versus just Prajvalita. The loop is a Parikrama. Just amazing. And see, that's why the Dhyana Dharana Samadhi that we talk about, many people think Dhyan means closing your eyes and thinking nothing. Not so. That is a one type of Samadhi for a practicing.
Yeah.
But Dhyana Dharana Samadhi, Patanjali Yoga Sutra Vibhuti Path says that Once you achieve this, dhyana plus dharana plus samadhi is equal to sanyam, meaning objective way of looking at the data, not being emotional about it. And then of course you need a Krishna Krupa and a Vyasa Krupa to solve these riddles. But these are riddles.
Sure.
Because Vyasadeva says that. Vaishampayan actually says that. This grantha is grantham granthi. Tada chakre munir gudham kutuhala. Full of curiosities, full of mysteries,
Yes.
and with a twist.
Nice. Thank you very much for clarifying that, and amazing to look into that.